Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. It's time for the J. Craig Podcast. Playing on headphones near you.
Welcome back to the J. Craig, everybody. I am Jay.
This is Craig.
Hey,
Welcome
Craig.
to the J. Hey, what's going on?
Hey. What's up?
Hey, the J. Craig, the latest and the not so latest on movie reviews, opinions, craft, storytelling, bad information,
Bad
and
information
all
sometimes.
kinds of sometimes wrong actors' names, wrong directors' names, wrong cinematographers. We're not very well in tune, but our heart and our passion is in it.
You got it.
So if you're not looking for facts, you're in the right place.
That's right. And don't forget, you can check us out on thejaycraig.com. We don't update it as much as we have, but it's there for all your viewing pleasures. As well as, don't forget, we can find us as the J. Craig Podcast on most of your podcasting watching abilities on Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, SoundCloud, and of course, if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're new to us, please subscribe, like us, and follow us.
But I'm going to make a plea to Jason right now to not use video on this one because I'm sitting on the floor in my crappy little Iraqi trailer.
Right?
So let's just not use video on this one.
Let's not use video on this. That sounds, that actually helps me out too. Okay, so Craig, I know you finally were able to, you broke down and you saw Avengers. And I know it probably wasn't the best copy, but I'm really glad you got to see it, man, because we talked about the Avengers going into this amazing movie, and just real quickly, man, give me a quick breakdown that you saw the Avengers.
Didn't I do this in the last podcast?
No, man, we just talked about the build up. We were talking. We did the Marvelous movie roundup.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. So that's rewind.
Yep.
So I'm in Iraq.
Yep.
And as you may have guessed, they're not showing Infinity War at the local cinema in Iraq because there is no local cinema. So, like literally, there's no local cinema. So, Jason sees it, and Jason's blown away.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is blown away, as the commercials tell you.
Right.
Internet's blown away, rightfully so.
Right.
Minor quibbles aside, biggest opening weekend in history,
Right.
worldwide. Everyone has seen this movie, so it only stands to reason. Sooner or later, the word's going to get out, and the movie's going to get ruined for Craig.
And it's going to get spoiled for you, yeah, because there's too much going on for you to not hear what happens in this movie.
Yes, exactly. So I was like, screw that. I got to figure out how to watch this movie. So as luck would have it, I oversee the IT department.
Okay.
So this is probably a little detail that I hadn't divulged before, but I'm going to let you in on it.
Gotcha. Okay,
So-
now I know something. Now I know, and the whole world knows.
So what happened was our direct feed out of the camp failed,
Okay.
which means that our client was not able to access the internet, and they started bitching. So they came to me, and he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. The only other thing to do is to go to the satellite, but that's not firewall protected. Anybody can go anywhere. I was like, the only people that are going to know that are people who try to go anywhere, so fucking turn it on.
Okay.
Like, well, anybody can go to any, because usually everything's blocked. You can't go to BitTorrents, you can't go to porn sites,
Okay.
you can't do much, okay, because
Gotcha.
it's somewhat under military rules, so
Right.
blah, blah, blah. And plus, it eliminates it will hinder our bandwidth if people can just like go into BitTorrent all night long.
For sure.
So most times that's blocked out.
Okay.
So I was like, turn it on. And let me know when you turn it on. So he turns that thing on. Well, guess what I did? I came back to my room and went searching for Infinity War on the internet.
Okay. Good man. Good man.
found the majority of it,
Okay.
and then was able to find the rest of it on YouTube, no less.
Right.
Kind of stitched it together. Negative, what I've come to learn is about 4 minutes of the movie.
Okay.
And then I was missing about 4 minutes
Okay.
of the movie, but still, it's still the movie.
Right.
And it was awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good.
So about 3 days later, and I'll finish this and launch into my reaction of it. So three days later, one of our Iraqi nationals was in an office watching it. I was like, hey, man, where'd you get Infinity War? And he's like, oh, it's on the internet. So he sends me the link to the copy with Iraqi subtitles.
Okay.
And then I actually watched a pretty good copy of the movie. You can tell the color's a little skewed,
Yeah.
but otherwise it's a good copy of the movie. So
Okay,
I've probably
okay.
watched the movie 4 times. I've watched the full movie 4 times.
Well, wow, you've seen it more than I have. You know what? You do what you gotta do, man. Because if you don't see it that way, which is not ideal, it's not ideal at all. But at least you got to see it and not have it spoiled and get all those surprises. Because I talked to you about it, but I tried to obviously I tried to withdraw like the big points that way. But I did say a lot, like I'm talking about the villain, and I'm talking about how impactful it was, and I was like, I hope I'm not overblowing this movie.
You honestly said nothing.
Okay, good.
Like Jason's review was like, I loved it and Thanos was cool. That's about all you said.
Good.
It's a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun. Thanos, oh my god, great villain. You're gonna like it.
I don't even know if I could call that fun, man. That movie was just intense and dreadful.
Like every 10 minutes, I was like, holy shit,
Right.
holy shit. I mean, even just the first 5 minutes, not like 15 minutes. In the first 5 minutes, they've killed all the Asgardians. He
Right.
kills Hemdale, and then the Hulk gets banished off. Gets beat the fuck. Schools the Hulk. And then he gets banished off. Then he kills Hemdale.
Right.
And then he gets the what's in the Tesseract? Which stone?
The Power Stone.
Power
No,
Stone.
the Mind Stone. No, not the Mind Stone. The Power Stone. Yeah. Or is it the Space Stone? I forget.
I think Space Stone, because he had the Power Stone, which is why he does beat up Hulk.
That's right.
That's why he can use the Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, the combination of the Power Stone and his combat skills laid the Hulk out.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I love when he kneed him in the face. I was like, oof, God.
Yeah.
Kitty punch, knee to the face, it's over.
Yeah, and then
And,
the sound effect that the Hulk makes when he gets. Oh, by the way, everybody, spoilers abound here. So if you haven't seen, this is just the beginning of the movie now. But step
Getting
away.
home like, oh my God. And then after that, yeah, spoilers. And then he kills poor Idris Elba, Hemdale,
Right.
then which is followed by the greatest line delivery at the end of the movie. You'll die for that.
Yeah.
And I love how he says it so desperately in the beginning, and at the end, there's so much conviction and anger behind it when he says it.
Right.
Oh, gives me chills. So, and then Loki dies,
Oh.
and then Thor gets banished off, and I'm like, we're like 4 minutes into this movie.
Yeah.
Like,
I know, right? Yeah. Well, you know, Craig, we have talked in the past about we had a whole podcast on openings and how important an opening of a movie is, and you know the Russos know how to tell stories, and so this opening was like just beautiful because it was so impactful. It set up the story immediately. It set up the villain immediately. It set up his cronies immediately. It set up everything so quickly and so efficiently that you, for the rest of that movie, you were just like, holy crap, this guy might win.
well, if you think about when their first breakout movie, the first actual movie was The Winter Soldier,
Mm-hmm.
and in the first scene, they established a whole different Captain America for you.
True.
Okay, Captain America is bad. That's gonna be a different movie. And in this
Right.
one, they establish how powerful Thanos is,
Right.
and he's not to be trifled with, and his minions, his henchmen, so to speak, are not to be trifled with.
Right.
So,
But I mean, you start the movie off beating up the two strongest Avengers.
yes, exactly.
It's like there's no hope for the rest of this movie.
Yeah,
Everyone's
the two
screwed.
Avengers- yes, exactly. And it wasn't really. I love that the one guy's line. Let him have his fun.
Exactly.
He
Yeah,
was
let him have his
gonna
fun.
step into the fight. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was going to step
Yeah.
in. Yeah. So, but other than that, I mean, it was a lot of devastating loss in the movie. It was very well. I liked the way that it was not a traditional narrative structure. You know,
Okay.
it had Wakanda, then it had the battle on Titan,
Right.
and I feel like I'm missing a part of it there for some reason.
Well, you had the Titan. They had Wakanda, and then of course you had Thor.
Oh,
and,
Thor.
Yeah, and his
Thor,
group.
for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean there was
Yeah,
three
Thor.
storylines going on there, but it was all centered around Thanos, which was I thought genius. It was his story. Like everyone
It was
else
his
is
story.
just trying to stop him.
Yeah, it was his movie. Like he was like the anti-hero, so to speak.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it was fucking cool.
Well, you know,
It
and
was
they've
really
built
good.
up. They've gotten better and better with their villains, and they finally. I mean, that's a daunting task building up this many movies. And I know they only threw him in the Avengers, the first Avengers movie at the end as kind of like a, it wasn't like they. I don't know if they really intended on using him. I think it started right there, right? So he
Yeah.
hasn't been involved for the entire thing, but it's been involved for a long time. And man, it really paid off on having a villain set up that slowly throughout all these films, and then when he comes on the screen, you're like, oh, that's what we've been waiting for. Thank God he hit,
And
right?
And if he didn't work,
Yeah,
the movie would. After 10 minutes, you'd be like, "Yeah, I'm checking my watch."
exactly.
Like he had to work.
Right. Yeah, he had to, and he did, and that's what I think would say not saves this movie, but makes this movie work even more powerfully. Is that the villain has conviction, he's strong, he's powerful. You know that people are going to lose in this movie, and it's probably going to be the good guys, and I love that. I love.
And what I really like, I like James. I like Brolin's take on it.
Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin, yeah, I always want to call him James after his dad, but Josh Brolin, like his, because he's as old as when his dad was like super famous, he's the same age now.
Right.
But his take on the character is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of like this worn out, not worn out as in weak, but as like, kind of like, he's almost like Eastwood and Unforgiven. Like he's been there, done that, kind of tired of it. He wants to get to his quest. He's almost at the end of his quest.
Right.
He's not, nothing is going to get him off of it. He's come too far. This is the only way to bring peace as he sees it. He feels like he's doing the right thing. For the right reasons. And I love how Brolin plays it. Like there's that scene where he's telling Doctor Strange about what happened to Titan and how he first came and said, hey, we need to thin out the population because of this, and then it happened anyway. And he's just kind of like, I told him, but now look what I had to do to make it right, and so on. And he's got this, and there was a story, I can't remember where I read it. There was a story online about when they hired Brolin, and they hired him. It wasn't like he screen tested; they just knew he'd be cool in the role.
Okay.
And so they came in and they're like, well, we've got to do some testing, and we got this new motion capture technology. We want to put you in there, see if you're comfortable, because if you don't like doing this, then the movie's not going to work.
Right.
And they gave him, it was early in the writing process, they gave him some pages. He said he sat down and he started doing the whole, like, kind of that slow kind of like very melancholy delivery that he has in the movie. And they were early in the writing process, and they were all just like, wow, like that's how to make Thanos.
Right.
He's not this big, bombastic, screaming bad guy.
Right.
This is who he is. So a lot of what happened with Thanos' development came out of Brolin's take on him, which I think is awesome. Yeah, which is cool.
That is really cool, and it works because, like I said, if he doesn't work, the movie's in trouble. And Brolin comes across through the CGI, his mannerisms. I mean, he's a well-rounded villain, and I think, I applaud the Russos and I applaud Marvel for their Endgame, even though it's not the Endgame yet. But there's so much to be said about that movie that I can't wait to take Tina to see it. I love it. I'm so impressed by it. It's got me wrapped around his finger. I think last year people were kind of blown away by it, but now people are coming out and understanding. They're like, this thing probably should have fell on its face in structure and build up and everything else. And it's a testament to the craft at play that it's not just like, oh, I'm glad it didn't suck. It's a good movie. Yeah.
Like it's a really good movie.
Right.
And with all those characters and everything they had to tie together and so on, the Russos are the real deal, man. I said this after we saw Civil War. Like they're real. That Infinity War is after that, like watch it the second time or third time, I'm like, this is a big, ambitious movie.
It is. It's as big as you can get. Civil War or Infinity War? Which ones? Civil War or Infinity War?
You mean as far as like which one's better?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of early.
Yeah. You're gonna need to see it. Let it sink in still. Right.
The only reason I would lean towards Civil War is because and it's not the movie and the story. It's because I lean towards Captain America as a character.
Sure.
And Captain America's not really. He has the least amount of emotional stakes in Infinity War.
He absolutely does, and I kind of don't blame him. There's so much going on in the movie, But they already did, their two with him, and I don't blame him for kind of not pulling away from Cap, but he served his purpose in the movie, but he wasn't a focal point. It was
Yes.
Tony, it was Thor, and it was Thanos,
Uh,
and Doctor Strange. I mean, I think that's your core
Yeah.
of this movie. You know.
I love how Doctor Strange and Tony are so similar.
Yeah.
And so it's like you put these two arrogant guys together,
Right.
and they're both intelligent in very different ways.
And their first sequence together, their first scene, it was awesome. And then when he calls him a douchebag, it's like, I'm protecting your reality, douchebag. I just was like, man, this is good, man. It's so good. The characters are great. They're weaving in and out of the stories very well. It's taking you in, like, all of a sudden, like, Tony Stark and Peter Parker are going up in space. I was like, oh, shit. And that's, and of course you strip, just like in Thor Ragnarok, you strip your hero of its most powerful thing, right? So you strip Thor of his hammer, you strip Tony in this movie of his ability to use Friday and use his computer, right? Because he's going up out of the stratosphere, out of the universe, or out of the galaxy. So he's going to not be able to communicate. And I think that's great because now he's got to, and I love how Tony has been changing throughout these last movies with Civil War, with this last one, and then just the way he wants to do what's good, and he knows that he's sacrificing a lot, but he wants to be the hero. He knows he kind of has to be. I love it.
Like it's great how the Russos took him. Because remember how we were kind of sick of him?
Yeah.
And then he came out in Civil War and they rebuilt him.
Yep.
They rebuilt the character, and it's like, I like this new Tony Stark.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm cool with this.
Right.
And the way he took upon himself to go toe to toe with Thanos, and I particularly like the scene where, again, douchebaggy Star-Lord, where Star-Lord's like, haha, you're not so tough anymore when they're trying to pull the gauntlet off.
Right.
It's like, this is my plan. Remember that. This is my plan.
Right.
And goes up, and Tony's like, dude, get away from him.
Right.
Like, we almost got this thing off. And I hadn't noticed the first time I saw it how close they were to getting the gauntlet off his hand.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, it came off. It just, he grabbed it with his finger and his thumb.
Yeah.
At the end.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that sequence was really powerful for me because when Tony is like the last one fighting in that sequence, right? In that battle, the look of terror in his eyes when his helmet gets knocked off.
Yeah.
And because it's a nano thing, then it starts to grow back again. But he knows that he is like the look of fear, like, holy shit, like he's gonna knock my head off, like, because I'm just a human. And it was so. I mean, the look in his face was just. I thought was. I mean, he's done a great job, and this movie, so many emotions, so good.
Oh, dude, when Thanos is like, kind of like cradling his head after he stabs him,
right?
Like, I started thinking about, like, that's got to be something Brolin did.
Right.
Thanks. Yeah, you'll be all right. They remember, just like, fuck, this is a good movie.
I hope they remember you, Tony or Stark. Yeah.
But what I love about what he says is he's talking about who's going to go away when he diminishes 50%, half the universe.
Uh-huh.
And he says, I hope they remember you, which almost implies, like, they're going away and you're going to stay, or you're going to go away and they're going to stay. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but he was about to blow his head off.
Yeah.
Like he said, I hope they remember you, and then he put the gauntlet up, and then that's when because he was getting ready just like to obliterate him, and that's when Strange came in, and I love the fact that these guys know how to tell a story is critical, because in a lesser movie when Doctor Strange says, Tony, I just want to let you know, if it comes down to it, you and the kid will be sacrificed over the stone, right? I will save the stone before I save you, right? So you're like, okay, that it's said because it means something, because later on when he gives up the stone, it's like, oh wow, like the conviction that he had when he said that to Tony and Peter, and now he's giving up the stones, like, holy cow, this means something.
Well, did you notice the subtle difference though? Is when he says, between you and the kid, I'll choose the stone, but he calls him Stark.
Okay.
Before, at the end, when he says, this is the only way, and gives us on the Thanos, he says, Tony, this is the only way.
Right.
So he's called Stark every single time.
Right.
But then when he calls him Tony, there's an implication of intimacy.
Yeah.
Between the two of them, and I'm like, fuck, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good movie.
And just to dissect that scene a little bit more, when they were just arriving on Titan, when the ship was, or I'm sorry, not arriving, but when they finally beat them all, and they were talking what to do, and Doctor Strange wanted to bring it back, and he wanted to take the fight to him. I love that that was the moment where they both kind of came to terms with each other, because they were fighting with each other, bickering, and then Tony let out why he wanted this to happen, why he needed to take the fight to them, and all of a sudden, Doctor Strange went, "Okay, we'll try it your way," because it was a level. Okay, now I get it. Now I'm on your side. It was really cool. Little moments.
There's a very significant point to make on the Russos working with Marcus McFeely and the writer.
Right.
I know there's a lot of this going on. Is that they don't have wasted scenes.
Nope.
Every scene has a purpose. Every scene progresses either the character or progresses the story, or both.
You're absolutely
every scene's got a turn.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've got it down, man.
They do, and there was no fluff, as I like to say. There's no fluff in there. So, for instance, here's a good example of what fluff could be. So, in this movie, at the end of it, I was talking to my buddies Mark and Bob, and they said, I think Mark especially said, I really wanted more of a scene between Natalia and Bruce Banner when they first met again. And I said, no, we just need 5 more minutes of that. I'm like, why? There was an awkwardness in their exchange, and that's all you need. You didn't need to have a scene where they sit down and start talking to each other about missing each other for 2 years. That would have been fluff. That would have taken you out of the scene. Instead, they give this real quick, awkward exchange, because it's supposed to be awkward. They're not going to just go into a room and start talking. That's going to happen later on.
Yes.
So I just love that there is no fluff. It's all it's everything that's on the screen, like the Tony and Strange with the I'm not going to give up the stone till I'm going to give up the stone. I love all that, and it's interweaved really well. It's balanced very well. It goes from one scene to the next where you're like, oh, now we're leaving them, but you know what? Now we're going over here. I love that. Yes. Every sequence was awesome between Captain and Wakanda and Tony Stark and Strange on Titan, and then you have Thor and Rocket and Groot. My God.
Thor, the MVP of Infinity War. Thor.
Yeah. My favorite part of the movie is Thor arriving back with his new hammer, and when that Bifrost comes down and he launches down and he has Rocket on his shoulder and Groot on his side, I wanted to stand up and applaud. In fact, I applauded and cheered, but I wanted to stand up. I was so excited.
Well, I was as awesome as that is. It's a better moment, but I prefer when he makes the hammer.
Sure. Oh, that's a good scene.
I love this. I love where Peter Dinklage when Thor says, well, no, Peter Dinklage says, but the power of the star will kill you. Thor says, so if I die, Dinklage says, that's what kill you means. Kind of playing up how dramatic Thor can be sometimes,
right.
like that.
So that means I'll die. That's what kill you means. I love the delivery too. It's great.
Yeah, he's just looking at him like I just said that. But so Thor absorbs the full power of that star,
right,
and is basically dying, and then Groot.
Oh,
look who wrote this!
I know.
This is the handle. The handle is his arm, and then Thor, like he and the hammer are connected, so it brings him back to life, and the hammer comes to life at the same time, and then you cut away, and Rocket already knew Thor was cool,
right?
But seeing what he did, that whole new level of respect Rocket's got for him, like it's just good. Yeah, it's just good storytelling.
It is,
and
one thing that they do really well is they understand the characters, like little things, like little moments that are really not even noticeable unless you're looking for, like Groot, for instance. He's the teenager, right? And I love the fact that they play off as a teenager. But when he starts to put the eye in, when Groot, he like all of a sudden like his mouth gets like, oh, and he leans over to look at him, because what's a teenager gonna do during a disgusting moment like that? He's going to check it out. Yeah. Right? I just love it. Little things like that make this movie just epic. It's so cool.
Yeah. How much for the gun? Not for sale. How much for the arm?
And he walks away. I'm going to get that arm.
Yeah, I'm going to get that arm. Yeah.
Oh, movie is so awesome. I can't wait to see it again. And then you have not only Thanos, but you have some really badass. I don't know anything about the Order, the Black Order. I know they're only about 5 or 6 years, maybe somewhere around there as far as old. They're not very ingrained in Marvel history, right?
Comic book culture.
Yeah, they're kind of new. But man, talk about badass force to be reckoned with.
Dude, who was the guy squared off against Strange? Who was that guy?
That's the Ebony Maw.
Ebony Maw is my favorite.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
Ebony Maw was my favorite. Yeah,
my favorite too because I loved his voice. I loved his animation. His effects work were amazing on him. I loved the fact that he was like a Jedi. He was just like he could do a whole bunch of shit. And then you have I also really liked Proxima Midnight, the female.
Yeah, she was cool.
Yeah, she was cool too.
She was cool.
The one that I wasn't a big fan of was just because he was just the muscle, was the big Hulk guy.
Yeah, because and I'm glad they didn't focus on him because you already had a Hulk in the movie,
right.
And Thanos is a big guy. You don't need another big Hulk guy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I just said how I love how he's dispatched with the glove and going up into the shield and then getting blown apart.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like what I wanted to say is what I like about when you were talking about the awkward exchange between Bruce and Natalia is you don't need that in this one because it's going to pay off in the next one.
Exactly.
Because the Hulk has to come out somehow,
right?
And of course, we're all wagering Natalia is going to be life or death between her and somebody else,
sure,
Thanos or whatever, and Bruce is going to sacrifice himself to get in the way, and the Hulk's going to come out.
Right. Exactly. That sounds like that sounds perfect, right? Because you don't need that exchange in the movie. You know?
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, first of all, you also have. Why would you want to throw that scene in there when you already have an emotional sequence throughout the movie or storyline throughout the movie, which is about Maxima or what's her name? I'm sorry, Scarlet Witch and Vision. You have that at play which is more important to the story. There's a reason why they didn't show the Hulk and Natalia talking because that's redundant. You already have that sequence. It's right here. That's the love storyline is right there, right? Mm-hmm. So I think they did a great job on everything. I can't really find. Only thing that I can find at fault with is like the fact that it ended. Because now I can't wait. I can't wait for the next 3 movies, man. I have another year of awesomeness coming our way.
The trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp was pretty funny.
Yep. Yeah.
Where he's scooting along on the big truck was pretty funny.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. I know it's going to tie in somehow. My guess is, or it's not my guess. I think Bob said this or somebody said this. At the end of the movie, one of them will be turned into dust, like at the end credit sequence, and that'll tie in his return to the Avengers. Would be right around there, something like that. And then we got Captain Marvel next March, I think.
I'm very interested to see how they show her superpowers on screen because they haven't had anyone Superman like before,
right?
In terms of going to present the powers.
Yeah.
Thor. Yeah,
Kinda.
Thor wasn't. Yeah, Thor's about the closest proximity. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how they display her powers and make her different than just being strong.
Right, and she's got a lot of powers too. I was reading up on her because I know nothing about her, so I was reading up on her. And she's got a lot of really cool powers. So she's
such as Jason.
I didn't write them down, so I don't know. I don't forget. But she has like 15 different things that she can do between. Let me try to remember some of them here quickly. I looked this up like days ago. She has an energy blast. Obviously, everyone's got like an energy blast, right? Especially Superman, eye beams. God, man, I can't remember any of them now that I'm on the spot. But she has a lot of different powers that they were saying how she's going to be able to defeat Thanos, and so they were showing off some of the things that she can do.
Okay.
So she's going to be a force to reckon with. I love the fact that they're doing a 1990s story. So the one thing that Bob brought up that I thought was interesting was why. So what was Captain Marvel doing all these times where they could have used her, and then Nick Fury knew about her.
I'm thinking she's off world.
Okay.
I'm thinking she's off world.
Or maybe she's been brought back from the past.
Maybe because I know nothing about her character in the least. So.
Well, all we do know is it's going to take place in the 90s, and the thought is that it's going to deal with the Skrulls and the Skrull invasion, and so that's going to be the people who are shapeshifters, which I think is going to lead into Avengers 4, and then somehow dealing with Thanos at the same time. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, at this point, I can't even guess because I was so surprised at what they did with the Avengers Infinity War that who knows what they're going to do with these next movies. I mean, I'm along for the ride now, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, I was really like there was a lot of Gamora's death. I thought was very affecting.
Whose death?
Gamora.
Oh my god. Oh,
yeah, when he tossed her off the cliff.
Very shocking. Very shocking. Like you're like, wow, they're doing everything in this movie.
I gotta bring this up because this whole I don't want to label it social justice warrior, but I'm not quite sure what to label it. There was an article online where this guy, it's a guy, he writes that the Soul Stone scene is the worst scene in Infinity War.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'll read that. Okay. Clickbait, whatever.
Sure.
He goes on to say, because he loved Gamora. He goes, but basically he was making the case that what he did to Gamora when she was young, how he treated her, just because he thought he loved her, he didn't really love her, and she didn't love him back, so it wasn't actually love. And I'm like, what are you, 12? Like,
well, he's saying the same thing that Gamora said.
Yeah, don't you know what a sociopath is, you idiot?
I mean, the fact that she says the same exact thing, like, you don't love me. Just because you think you do doesn't mean you love me. But you can't tell somebody who they love and who they don't love. I mean...
Exactly, that's the whole point. That's the whole point.
What an idiot. Yeah. Okay, so there's...
Because when Manus has got him by the head, she's like, he's in mourning.
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Deep regret.
Yeah, he was like, and regret, because he... of what he did, and I just thought that was...
And that's going to be the key to the next movie, and him... I think it's going to be Gamora's death is going to be the key that's going to help them defeat him.
Well, apparently she is in the Soul Stone.
Aha, exactly. Exactly. So soul for a soul for a soul. So when you talk about reviews like that or people nitpicking, I saw one too recently that I commented on afterwards. I was like, you're an idiot. So this was about, like I said, the 25 worst things about Avengers. And I said, the 25? My God. So I think I went through 5 of them before I said, this guy is just reaching. Like, everything was like a reach, like, complaining about every single character action. Like, Tony Stark said he didn't want to, then he goes up in space to save the world. What's that all about? I'm like, are you watching the movie? Are you just looking for reasons to complain? Because this is all bullshit. And you're just making an article because you know everyone loves it, so you're trying to be different. And you're trying to find every little thing that you can. Oh, why didn't they show us him getting the Power Stone? We needed to see the Nova Corps getting, I mean, no! You don't need to see him getting the stone from the Nova Corps. The fact that he has it tells you. You know? I'm like, you're reaching, dude. And people just want to be different. They want to kind of go against the grain. I think it was an intentional method just to go against the grain just because. And I think that's just...
Well, I do actually think, I said this when Civil War came out, and I said it to you when I first watched this, is the Russo brothers films, granted that they're big popcorn entertainment films, they do have a core emotional complex, like people acting like real people and making decisions based on emotions and who they are.
Right.
Which is not common in a lot of big blockbuster films.
No.
Like, people are making very hard emotional choices in their films. Sometimes twice in the same scene. They're not telling the audience, like, well, I'm going to do this now because I changed my mind.
Right.
Like, it's how movies used to be made. And I think there's a big segment of today's audience who's like, why is he doing that? 2 scenes ago, he said he wasn't going to.
Exactly.
Well, did you see what happened to him to change his mind?
Right.
Numbnuts.
Exactly.
So
this guy, if I would have read the 25 different things that he said it was the worst thing, I'm sure one of them would have been about the time stone and what Dr. Strange said earlier, and then what he did. Exactly.
Yes.
And dude, are you watching the movie or just trying to find things? Just how about this? Just forget about just watch it, man, because it's all there for you. Like, you don't need to be told everything.
Yeah, the whole movie is about sacrifice.
Absolutely.
The whole thing is sacrifice.
Absolutely. Right from the get-go. The whole movie from
everyone is sacrificing.
Loki.
Yes.
Sacrifices himself in the beginning.
Yes.
I mean, and that's the one who you would think would be turning, like, he does it twice in the movie where you think he's turning code again, right? Because that's who he is. Yeah. And then when he shows the dagger in his hand before he makes that gesture to cut his throat, It's like, holy cow, man. Loki's actually a hero right now. This is amazing.
He's trying. He's trying.
So awesome. The real main thing for me was the fact that Thanos was so good. And that's what makes it work. And that's what I loved about the movie. And that's what I kind of keep going back to and watching more and more and more of, is watching Thanos, because it's his story. But every good villain has to have really good henchmen.
Oh yeah, man.
And if they don't have good henchmen,
kind of acting on your own, everybody.
and there are villains who act on their own, but I think the real good villains always have somebody underneath them, somebody like a number two, or maybe an army, but there's always somebody underneath them.
Well, there's plenty of films I can think of where the henchman is the one who you really want to see get dispatched.
Yeah, absolutely.
And overcome. Not really the main villain.
Right.
The main villain's kind of like the mastermind. The henchmen are doing the dirty work.
And they're
That's
typically like a
henchmen
thorn in their side. They're always like that. They're an annoyance. They're always in the way. You know, and they're the one that they're always fighting, even though they're trying to get to the main boss.
Well, it's typically the worst character in terms of their ethics and morals, because the villain is the villain because they're doing some dastardly stuff, or they're what I want to say, they think they're in the right. But it takes a really twisted person to follow that person and extol out their mission.
Right.
Hitler wasn't killing Jewish people.
He had his own henchmen.
He had his own people do it.
Right. Exactly. Keep themselves away from it, or distance themselves, or just don't get their hands dirty. Exactly. And so hell, I mean, the stormtroopers are henchmen. Cobras, the Cobra officers, soldiers, those are henchmen too in a way. But I always like to think of like that, those number twos, the ones that get in the way of the hero more often, that they always have to be. That's what I like.
What people overlook in the Star Wars films is Darth Vader is the greatest henchman of all time.
He absolutely is.
In the first movie, he is Grand Moff Tarkin's henchman.
Right.
And in 2 and 3, he's the Emperor's henchman.
Right. Exactly.
Even though he's front and center, he is the henchman.
Exactly. He's doing the bidding of his master.
Yes. Exactly.
Which is the definition of a henchman, right? You gotta have somebody that you're serving. You know? And I love that. So, but the one thing about henchmen, so what makes a henchman? Because
the henchman, a good henchman or henchwoman, typically establishes some kind of an emotional connection, negatively, with the hero during the first or second act of the film.
Okay.
That's what a good henchman does. Where now you're like, that dude's got to go down.
Right. Right.
And what I really like is movies where the hero has their own sidekick, and the sidekick and the henchman develop a mutual loathing. And then they go at it at some point.
I didn't think about that. The fact that the sidekick and the henchman are, because that's what they are. The sidekick is the hero's henchman.
Yes, exactly. That's why it's called Sidekicks and Henchmen in Sky High.
Exactly. Good call. I totally forgot about that. That's awesome. Yeah. But you gotta have, so the henchmen, they have the unwavering loyalty. Like they'll do anything. Yes. And then it's like, why? Because look what people did for Hitler. Look what people do for any, any big villain or big historical figure. They always have people that follow because that villain has conviction, that they have purpose. And it makes the other people feel like they can follow him and get what they want out of life, right?
You're bringing up a good point, because I've seen a lot of movies, bad ones, and especially lately, not necessarily, in the last 30 years, whatever, where the henchman is written to where you're kind of like, why is he even following this guy? Right. Like he go do his own stuff. There's no reason. Sometimes they write the villain so poorly. Right. That doesn't make any sense. And a movie that hits on that note beautifully is The Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh yeah. Where the henchman is constantly just like, why do I work for this guy?
Another good example.
And then finally kills him.
Right, exactly. Right, you got to kill him. But Iron Man 3 actually has a great moment like that, where the henchman, Tony Stark comes in towards the end, and he's killing some of the henchmen, and he points his gun at the one henchman, and the guy lowers his gun. He's like, "Hey man, I don't even like working for these guys. They're weird."
Yeah. He doesn't make a good point on the henchman in that movie. I like that.
But that's because it's a thing, right? It's like, how far are they willing to go? And so it's kind of like you think of it like a comic book kind of situation there, but there are henchmen in real life, just like you said earlier, Hitler. Yeah, man, he had his own people doing. They're considered the henchmen in a way.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of movies where it's kind of like, after the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th henchman had gotten mowed down, who's still going out in that courtyard to face death?
Exactly. But that's why you always have that good, strong number two. No matter if they have the army or a faceless horde like Chitauri or Cobra or Stormtroopers, they that number two, like Darth Vader, right? So one that brought to mind to me was the bad guy, the ponytail wearing baddie in Snowpiercer. The guy that you cannot wait to see get killed.
He's a great henchman.
Yeah, because he's badass, and then he's like, you can't wait for him to die.
Oh yeah, like all his actions are just like, God, someone kill this guy already?
Exactly, right? Do you think it's more validating for an audience when that type of henchman that gets under your skin, that you can't wait to die? Do you find more validation when that guy bites it, or when a main villain bites it?
Well, it depends on the movie. When the henchman is well constructed, definitely the henchman.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I mean, other movies, it's the main guy. Lethal Weapon, the original, is a prime example of this. The main villain dies first.
Right.
And then Mel Gibson fights the henchman, which is Gary Busey.
Gary Busey, exactly. Right.
Mr. Joshua. The real villain. Mr. Joshua, who's actually the real villain.
Exactly. Yeah, but he's the henchman. He's the subordinate.
The henchman.
Exactly.
He's the subordinate. Absolutely. Right. But that's the guy. The whole movie's working towards those two unstoppable forces coming together.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the whole exactly. And so when you get even that when that henchman bites it, you're just like, yeah. Because sometimes getting the villain just means, okay, they completed the mission. But getting the henchman is more of a personal triumph. Because he's the one that's always in your way. He's the one that could probably kill you before the villain can. Right? And so it's more validating if it's done right.
He's the person you have to stop.
Right.
Because without that henchman, the villain is exposed.
Right.
So the henchman's the one who got to go. Lethal Weapon sets it up beautifully. They establish Danny Glover. They establish Mel Gibson. They establish how dangerous Mel Gibson is. Mm-hmm. Then at about the 11, 12-minute mark, they introduce Mr. Joshua. And they introduce him where the guy says, do you have a lighter? Do you smoke? And they light the lighter, and Gary Busey holds his arm over it. The sole purpose of that scene is not to show, well, it's showing the control this guy has over Gary Busey, but it's showing that, this guy's tough.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson's going to have to fight this guy at some point.
Exactly.
Good writing.
It is good writing, and that's the thing, is it has to be done well. But I mean, God, man, the good henchmen they're hard to come by. But when you have a good one, man. They're there for you to cheer when they lose. And I think I just love those moments, and there's so many good ones. So I wrote a few down. You want to go over some of these?
Please do.
Really, really good henchmen. And these are the number twos. Again, these aren't like the faceless horde because, you can't name a Stormtrooper. You can't name a Chitauri, but you have the hordes, right? So you mentioned the best
Stormtroopers would be like after one of the skirmishes, Stormtroopers are like, we need to change our training program.
Hey, can we contact the manufacturer of our armor, because it's not working?
Whatever we're doing is not working. We're getting our asses handed to us out there. And I wish there just would have been one scene where they're like, we're getting killed out there. And Vader comes by and is like, oh.
But
yes, sir.
I love the idea of henchmen and like the fact that you're trying to recruit henchmen. So you remember I made that. I'll put this up on Facebook eventually with the post of this, but I'll put my Henchmen Incorporated a little short story, and I did the film. And so I did a movie back in, holy cow, 10 years ago, maybe 12 years, 15 years ago. I don't know, gosh, forever ago.
20
years ago. Yeah, probably. God, time flies. And it was called Henchmen Incorporated, and it's about kind of like taking how they would recruit Cobra and, you know, getting them in there and getting them trained, and it's a short 5-minute quickie, and I had a lot of fun doing it. But I just love the concept of how do you recruit henchmen? Like, how do you, like, Venture Brothers, right? Henchmen number 21 and 24.
Whatever happened to that show?
You know, that's a great question, because they took so long. Venture Brothers took so long to make their shows that there was so much time in between. And then I remember I kept trying to find it on DVR and try to record it, and I just had a hard time getting it there. Once their last season came out that I saw, it was like years after I saw the next one, and I lost kind of interest in it. I forgot what was going on, and it moved on.
Yeah,
right.
The guys who made that show, like, they just didn't care. They're like, yeah, we'll get to it.
Exactly. And it's too bad, because I loved that show, between the henchmen and the different villains and the Monarch, and oh my god.
You remember when we found that show?
Uh-huh.
We were skipping channels.
Yep.
And it was the episode where he was selling a bunch of his stuff. And the henchmen were trying to come in and buy his stuff, and we're like, what the hell is this?
It was, the Henchman 21 was buying a lightsaber.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Some awesome stuff, man. But the henchmen, for me, are a pivotal part of that story, because they go through the gamut of why are they there, the fact that they're not trained, the fact that they're always going to get beat by the good guy. It has all the cliches, right?
I love that. Is it 21 or 24 who's all out of shape?
I think 21 is the one that's out of shape. I think 24 is the
lanky guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last one that I remember seeing, he dies.
Yes.
And then he keeps seeing, 21 keeps seeing his visions of him, or keeps seeing his skull. He's talking to the skull. So I remember seeing like the beginning of the next season, but then I stopped getting cable, so now I don't have Adult Swim, so I had to find it like on DVD or something. But man, I love that show. I think they just kind of maybe just kind of died out, you know, unfortunately.
No, when the guys who made it, they were just kind of like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Like we'll make them or we won't.
We'll get to it.
Exactly.
We'll bring it back out. And then a year ago, they were like, "Is it going to be more Venture Brothers?" Then I never heard about it again.
Exactly. And we were actually thinking about, we were trying to, UI and a couple of friends I was trying to get to do the Venture Brothers as a Halloween costume set.
Yes, that would have
been fantastic.
Classic.
Exactly. Okay, so let's go over some really good henchmen over the course of cinema time. So, how about, I'm just going to go in order where I wrote them down, so there's no order here as opposed to what I came to mind. The three storms in the Big Trouble in Little China movie.
Ooh.
And most notably is the lightning guy, because he's, you know, got lightning. The one of them doesn't really have much of an impact, but then Thunder.
Thunder guy just doesn't do a whole lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but the lightning guys, but they're good. They're good villains because they're powerful. They beat up. You know, they're a force to be reckoned with. You don't really care if they die as much as Lil Pan, because you want Lil Pan to die. But they're still really good villains. How about Carl from Die Hard?
I was thinking of him too.
Yeah, he's a really good henchman. Because
that's who you want to see Bruce Willis go up against.
Exactly, just like the Joshua and Mel Gibson character.
Yeah, you're not looking for him to go mano a mano with Hans.
Exactly.
That's not a fight. He has to outsmart Hans.
Exactly.
Hans has to outsmart. He has to beat Carl.
And that's what you want to see. You want to see the physical one-upman. You know, that I get over him. And then get to the main guy, but it's that big boss battle. So Carl's a really good one, because he fits that perfectly. That build-up of a character who is at odds, and you know at some point, especially when he kills his brother.
And I was going to say, what's the emotional connection established?
Yeah, the brother, exactly.
Kills his brother.
Right.
Kills his brother.
It's not just that he's a big bad guy.
And I like that they flipped it there, because typically a lot of times it's what the henchman did to the good guy, but in this reverse sense, it's what he did to Carl.
That's true. That's a good point, Craig. It's usually, the henchman does something to the good guy that makes him have to get by him. But now it's reverse. That's a good point. It's reverse. It
gives Carl motivation.
Right. And puts your good guy in a different kind of light.
Yeah,
that's a genius story, man. They did a great job with that movie. So they hit all the the right cliches and then twisted them. I love it. Good stuff. Okay, how about, I know you're not a big fan of the movie, but Kill Bill 2 has a great secondary henchman. It's Go-Go, the girl with the schoolyard, girls' school outfit.
I don't know how much I consider her. I do and don't because she's not in much of the movie.
She's not in much.
But you're right. She's a henchman.
Okay, well, actually, let me take that back a notch. Let me take that back a notch.
But isn't Lucy Liu a henchman?
All 5 of them are.
Mm-hmm.
They are all henchmen underneath Bill.
Yeah.
So I pull that back, and as we're talking about that, yeah, it's Lucy Liu, it's Michael Madsen, Daryl Hannah, and Vivica A. Fox. Yes, you have all 4 of them are the true henchmen.
She has to work. She has to work her way through the henchmen before she gets to Bill.
Right, and then you have the henchmen have their own henchmen, like the Crazy 88s that Lucy Liu had, right. And then you have Go-Go, which also something she had to go through. But I mean, yeah, right. But really good villains though, because she had to keep going to get to Bill, yes. And then you get more of that resounding satisfaction when she finally gets by one more, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Here's one that I know you'll appreciate. I'm going to go into Mad Max territory now. So there's 2. I'll go from Road Warrior. You got Wes, right? And then, I mean, heck, even the War Boys in Fury Road. There's not really a main number 2, I don't think, except for the big guy, who's one of his sons. But other than that, it's just the War Boys themselves.
Well, the guy who originally is driving Max around in the front of his car is the one who winds up having his car at the end, and is like when Max is hanging upside down off the truck.
Yep.
He's the guy who's blowing gasoline into his car.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Guys, he has a really big smile.
He looks like a albino Joker.
Yeah.
And he's the one who, when they get the truck back under control and they trap him between the 2 vehicles and they destroy Max's car.
He's a good henchman. You're right. Yeah. So yeah, he's the one that you can't wait for him to get by because he is definitely a henchman. Okay, so that's a good one. Now, is there anybody in Thunderdome underneath Auntie?
Yeah, that guy who with the
of course.
With the hat,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I knew I had to bring it up because I knew it was something I was missing there. It's the guy with the doll, the Chinese doll head.
The doll, the Chinese doll. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, that's a great one. Luca Brasi, in The Godfather.
He's a good henchman.
Okay, now he's different though because you never see him do anything other than be intimidating and being like just very scary looking. Because it's all about the backstory of him and what they don't tell you, which makes him kind of cool.
Which makes him dangerous. Which makes him cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The fact that they talk about him in such high regard, and then when he gets beat, you're like, oh damn. So it's a little different take on the henchman, but he's a very qualified henchman because he's the muscle.
Before we forget, too, Mr. Vernon Wells played 2 excellent henchmen in the 80s. He played Wes in The Road Warrior.
Right.
Then he played Bennett in Commando.
Oh, my God. As you were saying that, I just pictured the fact that was him. That's right.
One of the greatest henchmen ever.
And he is the henchman in Commando, right? Because there is another baddie.
He's the henchman. Oh, he's the henchman. He's the henchman.
Right. That's right. I got to tell you, I honestly, I might have to give my movie-going card back. But I honestly did not know that was Commando. That was the guy in Commando.
You didn't?
I did not know that. I did not know that. But as you said it, all of a sudden the faces in my mind matched up. And I was like, holy crap, that is him. So, full disclosure.
All right.
Okay. So, all right. So, we got Luca Brasi, we got Wes. Obviously the Bond movies always have good henchmen. I didn't write down a whole bunch of them, but 2 that come to mind immediately were Jaws and Odd Job.
Jaws and Odd Job were great.
Dave Bautista.
They started the whole henchman craze, I think.
I think they might have, yeah. I think that's probably where that kind of stems from. Also, of more recent Bond days is Dave Bautista when he plays that one bad guy.
He was the return to the classic Bond henchman.
Exactly, right.
Big, silent guy.
Right.
who could beat the crap out of Bond without really trying.
Ooh.
And that's a really good fight scene in Spectre.
There
actually.
is. Yeah.
Great fight scene.
Yeah. Another one from Bond that just kind of popped in my mind is Benicio del Toro in Living Daylights, I think. One of the Timothy Dalton movies. He plays...
Benicio del Toro?
Yeah. Yeah, he plays a Colombian, I think Colombian. I'm just guessing. I think that's where the story takes place. But he's the one that is the thorn in Bond's side throughout the whole thing.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Benicio del Toro. Uh-huh.
I gotta
look it up, man. Look it up. And while you're looking that up, I'll give up two that I think, you're gonna really appreciate because you love these two movies. Johnny Ringo. From,
of course.
In Tombstone, right?
Fucking awesome.
Michael Biehn. Yeah. Now there's a couple good henchmen in that movie. You have the Stephen Lang, Ike Clanton henchman.
Ike Clanton is more like, he's a henchman, but he's more like the slimy scoundrel guy.
He is. That's right.
He doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything on his own.
But exactly. But he's also really isn't he? He's the head of that family of the Clantons, and it's the Clanton something gang. So
he is.
I think he's not necessarily a henchman because he's kind of, him and Curly Bill are kind of in charge, right?
Like Michael Biehn is it's Michael Biehn as the henchman and Doc as the sidekick.
Yeah. Perfect example, right? And they're going to collide at some point. I love that. That's genius, man. Good job on catching that dichotomy. I love it. One of my absolute favorite henchmen of recent years is Charlie Prince, Ben Foster from 3:10 to Yuma.
Oh, he's excellent. Ben Foster just makes him excellent.
Yep.
And I can see that they got the picture from that the Living Daylights right up here.
Okay.
With,
there he is.
Yeah. So I did not recall that.
But yeah, he was really good in the movie. I remember him being a villain that you could not wait to see get dispatched, and he wasn't the main baddie either. So that's a good one. I think it was. Isn't Wayne Newton the bad guy in that movie?
No, but you're close. In that one, it's that dude who he always plays a bad guy. But you're close. There's one of those Vegas type guys is in those movies.
Okay.
I'm gonna find it right here.
Give it to me. Lay it on me.
License to Kill is the one he's in. He plays Dario in License to Kill.
Who? Del Toro?
Del Toro.
Okay, so I had the wrong movie. Okay.
Okay, Robert Davi is the guy I'm thinking of.
Robert Davi.
Because he's always the bad guy. He's always the bad guy in those movies. And then, God damn it, Jason, Wayne Newton is in this movie.
All right, I got two on that one. All right.
God damn. Bonus points for Jason Catron today.
Outstanding. Very good. And that's something I didn't even write down. I was trying to talk about Bond. Bond, that came up because he was one of my favorites in that particular sequence there.
That's awesome.
Okay, how about this one? Clarence Boddicker, RoboCop.
Oh, he's the greatest. I'm sorry, he might be the greatest for me. He might be the greatest henchman of all time.
He is up there in the well, obviously Darth Vader is the greatest, right? He's got to be the greatest.
Well, but for me, Clarence Boddicker is the greatest villainous character. Like the combination of the actor and how they wrote him and what he does.
Right.
I mean, he's the guy who kills. He kills the hero.
Right.
He's the guy who kills him.
Yep. That's an awesome one. So, but between him and like Charlie Prince and Johnny Ringo and Wes, you've got some really, really, really good quality.
Clarence Boddicker is like when you're watching RoboCop, you're just like, when is RoboCop going to kill this motherfucker?
I know. And then when he finally gets his comeuppance, you're like, yeah.
And I started thinking when I was watching, I was like, there isn't anything RoboCop can do to this guy, like murder-wise, that's going to live up to what a piece of crap this guy is. But I was wrong. I love that he suffers.
Do forgive me. Please remind me.
Stabs him in the frickin' throat.
Oh, that with his little Yeah.
With his spike, with his hand spike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sayonara, Robocop. And he bleeds out in the water. Oh, it's great.
And all of those henchmen get a fine how do you do ending.
They all, dude, all the guys who killed him, because they all killed him.
Yep.
It's basically like Jesus given the chance to come back and kill all his oppressors.
Right. Exactly.
Like, there's so much going on in that movie.
Well, when you start off, kind of like with Thanos in the beginning of Infinity War, when you start off the movie with your villains standing, laughing, and blowing the hell out of the hero of the movie, I mean, you are just setting up a cascade of powerful payoffs. You better be, anyways.
Yeah. I love. There's something about it. You can notice this as you watch the Russo brothers 3 Marvel films.
Right.
Is first one they're like, Captain America, he's a cool character. How do you make this guy a good character?
Right.
And they do.
Right. 100%.
Second one comes out and they're like, ooh, now we get to play with Tony Stark. And they change Tony Stark and make Tony Stark a very interesting character.
Yes, they did.
Cap's already established, but they make Tony Stark very, very interesting.
Right.
And they have like Spider-Man. They make the Spider-Man.
Yep.
And then this one comes out, and they've got a whole new cast of characters they can play around with.
Right.
They change Hulk, and they focus it back on Banner.
Right, which I loved.
But you can tell that they had a very keen interest in Thor.
Yes.
And Thor, and this is, took them a while to get there, but Thor, again, I got to say it, Thor is the MVP of this movie, man. It's a combination of who Chris Hemsworth has become as an actor and the character, and what he goes through. When he has that conversation with Rocket, and he's like I just keep losing everything.
Right.
Like, and then Rocket's like, well, got to pick it up there, buddy. So
Thor is amazing in the movie.
But he goes on that single-minded quest. Yeah, he goes on that single-minded quest. I'm killing this guy.
Right.
I'm going to kill this guy.
I like how you're approaching that they have taken different characters that now they have to work with and kind of created their own identity within what they've already been established. I think that's challenging as hell, but it has been very seamless, where it doesn't seem too outside of the box for Tony to be where he's at in Civil War.
No.
Right? It's seamless. It doesn't seem outside of the box for where we've seen Hulk, especially in Thor Ragnarok, to see him becoming manhandled and becoming scared. I mean, who thinks of this shit? That's awesome.
Them?
Exactly. But and then they, like you said, they tackled Captain, they tackled Tony, and now they're tackling Thor. And what's next? Yeah. Captain Marvel?
And they introduced Black Panther. They give him his identity.
True. Yep. Exactly. And that established his whole thing. Yeah. So they're. I think if it wasn't for the Russos, I would not be on this train right now. I'm very confident.
We would have stopped caring about these movies 5 years ago if the Russos would have got involved.
I'm almost saddened. I'm almost saddened that they weren't involved with the entire Captain America trilogy.
Yeah, but it's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. But I would have loved to see where they would have started and ended his arc. For them to tell their story.
I almost think I agree with you. It's almost cooler. I'm glad. I'll never forget the actual enjoyment of the shock when I was like, "This is a good movie."
Yeah.
Like, what happened? Like, why is it such a good movie?
Right. Like I say, man, if it wasn't for the Russos, I wouldn't be on this train. They are. I can't wait to see what they do. That like a passion project of theirs. That there is their own original idea. I'm hoping maybe they don't have an original idea. I don't know. Maybe they just love working with the people and making stories together like that. Or maybe they have all these ideas that they want to make, and now they're going to be able to make them.
I'm just waiting to see how much money Kathleen Kennedy throws at them to make a Star Wars movie.
Ooh. Well, now you would have my complete interest, sir. If you get Russos in Star Wars, Kenobi, like you mentioned before, Kenobi. Making a Kenobi story.
That's just too good to be true.
Oh my God. That would be like a dream come true with them knowing how to get into emotion, how to get into character, how to give like the right amount of, nostalgia to what you're watching. You know, like they know how to hit those little moments, those little throwaways, you know, those little things that keep you in the realm of the universe that we're in, right? And what's funny about the Russos is that you've mentioned this to me before, and then I started to really take a note of it, is that they don't have like a certain style. It's very just kind of just professional, but it doesn't have like a style that you say, oh, that's a Russo movie.
It's not flashy.
No.
They're focused on, they're worried about character,
Yep.
the context of the scene, and they put the camera where it needs to be.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like it's not anything. They make sure geographically you know where you are.
Right. Very well.
Very well.
Yep.
Yes, they make sure that you're always spatially aware of what's going on, but a lot of people won't pick up on is it doesn't look flashy, but it's precise.
Yes.
And in the scenes where the characters are making dramatic choices or going through something or so on, the camera's tilted up, it's tilted down, it's who's on which side of the screen.
Right.
Like it's very well thought out.
Yep.
Not flashy, but it's making it's a very subconscious communication to the audience going on.
It's not over stylized, you know, for the sake of being flashy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like one of the few very stylized shots in Infinity War was when Gamora's talking to Thanos. And the conversation has been very, you're kind of looking up at him a little bit for scale, but you're looking at her. And then when I forget what she says, but it's where he's going to turn. When you cut back to her point of view and you're looking up at him, up at his back.
Yeah.
And he's completely isolated from her at that moment.
I think that's the moment where Red Skull says, those tears aren't for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she realizes that, oh shit.
But that's a very precise camera choice.
Yep.
Because it shows he's in a position of power and he's turned his back on her and he's isolated.
Right.
But there's not a lot of there's a lot of that kind of stuff in the movie, but you don't pick up on it.
Yeah. I can't wait to watch it again, but God, so good. I can't wait to see what they do. Like I said, I can't wait to see what they do after the Avengers, after a big blockbuster. What are they going to do that they can do anything?
Good question.
Exactly. Maybe it'll be Star Wars. That'd be awesome. That'd be really cool.
They were circling because they're looking for material. They bought a bunch of books. Don't ask me what they are right now. But they bought a bunch of books because they formed their own production company.
Oh, did they? Okay. Of course they did.
Yeah, and they hired Marcus McFreely, another guy, as their chief of story for the company.
Nice.
So
good.
Yeah, when you find good people to work with, stick at it.
Exactly. Stick with it and keep going. So now, who knows, man? I haven't looked on their IMDb page to see what they have. Like, you know, sometimes you'll see, you know, in production or pre-production, or you know, that they have under their belt that they're thinking about making. Not always accurate, but it gives you an idea what they might be looking at making down the road. But I'm just looking forward to seeing what they do outside of this, because all we know from them right now is Marvel, and I can't wait.
Would you be interested in this? But we're gonna test Jason's. We're gonna test Jason pretty hard at this moment.
Okay, let's do it.
Would you be interested? Now we know Lucasfilm, Disney, Kathleen Kennedy is not going to let this series die.
Of course not.
There's too much money at stake. Would you be interested in a Joe and Anthony Russo Indiana Jones series?
Oh, because of who they are, because of what they've done, I would be interested in anything that they make. Now,
all right, you heard it first.
I would be interested, just because, you know, but it like the Solo movie, it's going to come down to Indiana Jones. Would
you be interested in a Joe and Anthony Russo Indiana Jones trilogy starring Chris Evans?
Oh, yes.
I would be.
I would be totally down with that. Right.
I'd be so down with that.
Now, if you put Chris Pratt in there, I'm not interested.
No, they're not. No, look at how they portray him. Look at how they portray him in Infinity War.
I'm glad you brought that up, because when you were talking about the different characters that they've taken and shed new light on and reinvented them in a way, I was thinking of Peter Quill. And they obviously do not have much interest in that character.
They have no interest in that guy.
Yep.
They don't like that character. They recognize that.
The best stuff that he's a part of is him in his inferiority complex when it comes to Thor at the beginning when they find him. There's some funny stuff there, but it ends there.
Yeah. Well, what I think is funny is what they have him do is true to his character, but it just shines a light on what a douchey prick he is.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I mean that's who he is.
What he does, yeah, that's who he is, and
yep.
It's kind of like, look, James Gunn, you created an asshole main character.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's exactly what you did.
Let's just live with it, dude.
Right.
Like,
and you know what?
Asshole.
And so that I was talking to Paul about this, and he's like, so, what did you not like? And I said I didn't like Peter Quill because I just don't like Chris Pratt, first of all, typically, and then I just don't like the Star-Lord character. And he's like, well, that's not really Chris Pratt though. That's the writing. I'm like, you're right. It's not Chris Pratt's fault that's the character he's portraying. It's James Gunn's fault.
Yeah, right. Because in the second movie, it seems like either James Gunn has lost interest in the Peter Quill character. He's more interested in everybody else and Mantis and Kurt Russell.
Right.
Or he's thinking that he can let that character get by in Chris Pratt's charms.
And I think that's exactly what it is.
One of the two.
I think that's what it is. Quick question. Guardians of the Galaxy, at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, he holds the Power Stone and doesn't die.
Right.
And then he has the father who is Ego, and then he dies. Where the hell is his power in this movie?
I imagine that will probably come out in the second one.
Okay, so when he gets maybe rematerializes or whatever. I also just read, future spoiler, that not every one of the deaths is going to be respawned from this movie.
No, I think anybody who died prior to him snapping his fingers is dead. But Gamora is in the Soul Stone.
But what about Peter Parker and the Guardians of the Galaxy group? Because there is another Peter Parker movie coming out. There's another Doctor Strange movie coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you could get away with the Guardians of the Galaxy not becoming alive again because there's 4 years in between Infinity War and Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So there's 4 years in between there. And you could tell a story in the middle there and not have it affect afterwards, right? Peter Parker, you could tell a story of him before Infinity War if you wanted to have a second movie. But with Doctor Strange, who knows? I mean, I think some of those characters are going to have to come back.
I don't think anyone has the heart or the gall to kill Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to come back because
he's got to.
The people who it means a lot to, it means a lot for Tony for Spider-Man to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And it means a lot to the Wakanda crew for Black Panther to come back. I think it's going to come down to the emotional connection someone has to a character to come back or not.
Oh, okay. So like Rocket and Groot.
Rock. Did you notice how that worked? Rocket lost Groot. Steve Rogers lost Bucky.
And Sam.
Tony lost Spider-Man.
Right.
Nebula
lost the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, she did. She lost Gamora, which was more key. And so when you look at it like that, what he did has more meaning.
Uh-huh.
Is he took away the half of every relationship.
You're right. It's right. Okay. But War Machine sticks around.
Why is War Machine still alive? And why does Don Cheadle look like he has AIDS? I mean, I wish that guy just go away.
He's my least favorite of the Avengers.
He's awful. Like I wish he would have crushed him in his little power suit.
Which I thought he did actually at one point. I did think
he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did think he did.
I was like, oh wow! And then he puts the Hulk Buster in the rock and then bends them. I'm like, oh man, this guy, some badass motherfucker. I got a couple. I got a couple more henchmen. I know we went back to the Avengers, which is awesome because it's so much to talk about. But I have a couple more that I want to get to before we lose track. So if we could segue back into it, how about Matt Damon from The Departed? Jack Nicholson's henchman, if you will. Is Leonardo DiCaprio the henchman of Jack because he's why he's undercover?
Good point, Jason.
Well, that was a late addition.
Sure.
I added that one just as we were talking because I remembered I was actually before we started talking I was looking through my movies. I'm like, oh, Departed, that's a good one, Matt Damon. I got one that's from a TV show. Doug Stamper from House of Cards.
That's a good one.
Really good.
I like that. That's a good one.
Loyalty, unwavering support, does the dirty stuff. I mean, he is in essence a legitimate henchman. He's really good. And he's creepy too.
Yeah, he is creepy. Yeah, he's not listening like he's all there at all.
Not at all. Okay, how about this one? Two of them. Jules Winfield and Vincent Vega.
Yeah, definitely Vincent Vega.
Definitely Vincent Vega.
Because Vincent Vega got to go into the bathroom.
Yeah.
Which is still one of my all-time favorite Quentin Tarantino moments. I was like, yeah, that's great.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
I love that scene where he's like, yeah, when the Uzi's on the kitchen table, and it's just like, you just see Vincent Vega. It's like, God, man, I really got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Let me just leave this here.
Right.
Like, what?
Yeah, he's not coming back. He's been there for hours, days.
Yeah, exactly. This guy's not coming here. I'm just waiting around. The guy's not dumb enough to come back here. Right. The guy's not dumb enough to do this. I'm just doing what I was told.
It's funny that he didn't leave the door open so he could hear. Like, why is he closing the door?
And then he closed the door when he's in someone else's apartment.
Exactly. That's awesome. So,
but it's in character.
It's in character, right? Now, I was debating whether or not I could use henchman or hitman as a henchman, but then if I lose Luca Brasi, then you got to use, the hitman from Pulp Fiction. So they are definitely henchmen, but Vincent's definitely the one there. Now, there's always these, but they're you have your 21 and 24 henchmen from Venture Brothers. You have your Otis from Superman.
Right.
And you have like Starscream, so you always have your inept henchmen. So you have the real qualified ones, the ones that are the number twos that you can't wait for them to see and get over. But then you have those inept ones that are like more like the Cobra kind of style.
But before you move into the inept, I think you missed one.
Oh.
And I've had this debate with someone before that they didn't think it was a henchman, but I think he's definitely a henchman because he's carrying out the bidding of a higher power.
Okay.
Agent Smith.
Okay, I was debating whether to put him. Yeah, because you're right. He is not in control. He's a program.
He's a program.
Absolutely.
He's a henchman. He's a freaking great henchman.
Yeah, he is.
And he's the guy you want to see go toe to toe with Neo.
You absolutely do, and then when it finally happens, it's very, very satisfying in that regard.
Very satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really good one because I was, when I talked about like the faceless horde, like the Chitauri and orcs from Lord of the Rings, or Cobra or Stormtroopers, I was thinking about the Matrix. I'm like, well, they're all, especially when he's got multiple Smiths. I mean, my gosh. So kind of a faceless horde in a way, but at the same time, a really qualified villain because you can't wait for him to get over the henchman, right?
That's a pretty qualified henchman. Is he qualified to do this? Trying to think awesome. I know we're missing a bunch, but
we are now. When I look at like the most incompetent henchmen, the list is a bunch of cartoons. Like they have Darth Maul on there, which I don't consider him to be inept or incompetent. He gets bested. Doesn't make him inept. Right. Doesn't make him doesn't make him incompetent. He's a very qualified henchman. But there's stuff like the Ninja Turtles have like the Bebop and Rocksteady, stuff from He-Man, stuff from a bunch of different cartoons, and I'm like, I don't know about some of these.
What is that? I wouldn't know.
Right. How about this one for a good henchman? I forgot his name, but in Flash Gordon, the guy with the metal face. His number 2.
Oh, Klaus?
Yeah, there it is. Klaus.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's good.
Yeah. So
he's a good henchman, yeah.
When you're,
it's not the ball worms.
Exactly. Not the ball worms.
Every 14-year-old boy was like, please bring out the ball worms. Please.
Not the ball worms.
Yes. Worms, yes. What are you going to do to her?
When I look at, I don't see a lot of like movie incompetence. I know in Bond they have them, and in certain movies, like comedy movies, but I don't see a lot of inept, incompetent henchmen in cinema that I can identify.
I can think of two right now.
Oh, go for it.
I'm gonna get you, sucker.
Hands down, awesome answer. That's fantastic.
And then he went like this, and then he hit me, and I was like, ooh.
He screamed, "Willie, help get this bitch off of me?" Yeah, now get a butt in the car before she wake up again.
Oh yeah,
I love it. I mean, Lion King. I actually just watched The Lion King. The hyenas are the henchmen, and they're kind of incompetent.
True.
Okay.
True.
A lot of Disney always has the incompetent henchmen. If you think about any Disney movie, their villain always has incompetent henchmen, without a doubt.
And the hyenas in Roger Rabbit.
That's right. Or are they hyenas? Or are they wolves?
Themselves to death.
Are they wolves or hyenas?
The hyenas, remember, they laugh themselves to death. Remember?
Oh, that's right. That's right. They do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Like man does the dance, and they start laughing, and he's like, "Shut up! You'll laugh yourself to death."
And then he does. That's awesome. Yeah, I think Disney's really big on the incompetent henchman part. I think every movie I'm looking at here, every one of them has an incompetent hero. It builds up the fear of the real villain and gives you someone to laugh at. Yeah, that's it. That's it. So it depends what tone your movie is. If it's a heavy action movie, typically you're not going to have the incompetent one because that's going to have more comedic value.
Yeah, it's hard to do in a live action film.
Yeah, and then but like Otis, he's Gene Hackman's henchman, and that's more of a comedy though. It's not really super serious. They're having a lot of fun with that movie. But I think that there's lots of different henchmen. So you have the strong number twos, you have the incompetent henchmen, you have the faceless horde. So there's lots of different it depends on what tone your movie is, but the most important thing is that you want to see them get over, especially those are my favorite, the ones that you want to see them get by. Like in the Black Order, every time one of those guys bites it, you're like, yeah, they got it.
Good.
Exactly.
Yeah, I liked it. It took Cap and Black Widow to take those guys down. That was cool.
Oh well, so that's another incredible part of the storytelling of these movies is that they show all the strongest heroes getting their ass handed to them, and then when Vision and Max and then and Scarlet Witch are getting their asses handed to them, and also two very powerful heroes,
right?
Captain Sam and Natasha come in and kick ass
because they engage them hand to hand.
Exactly. Right. And
they get up close. They get up close, personal, and beat the fuck out of them.
Exactly. Yeah. And it just, I love that they did that with Cap as opposed to like everyone else gets their ass handed to him, that he comes in and he beats them, and it's like quick. It's like, ooh.
And his intro, you can tell the Russos still love Captain America.
Absolutely.
Because he has the best introduction.
It has, and by the way, that beard is awesome on him.
Dude, that's why I'm like, I want more Captain America, because I got like a man crush on this guy right now.
I know, man. I love the guy. He's fantastic. I love the Captain and Thor moment where he's like, haircut, huh? I see that you're copying my beard.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So many awesome moments. So, as far as a henchman goes, like, what's your favorite henchman? This is a tough question. I don't even know if I have an answer for this one. What's your favorite henchman death?
My favorite henchman death? Chris Boddicker.
Okay, so that's an easy one for you. Okay.
I cheer every time I see that happen. I'm just like, yeah. God damn it.
That's a good one.
Either that or in the pure make the guy suffer is the toxic waste death of the same movie, RoboCop.
Oh, yeah, it's another good one. Yeah.
That's great.
So for me, I don't have a favorite. I'll name a couple. The guy in Snowpiercer, the ponytail guy, really liked his. He finally gets his comeuppance. I like Carl's, Charlie Prince, and Matt Damon. Both of those have really satisfying deaths. If you consider Matt Damon a henchman, I love their deaths. They're satisfying, and I think that's what I'm looking for, is that satisfying death. But I think all the real good ones, Charlie Prince, Johnny Ringo, Wes, they have good deaths, and then you want to cheer them.
Well, Yo, man, Johnny Ringo's death is something else, man. When he's, I'll be a Huckleberry.
Uh-huh.
That's got it. Mine might be a tie for first place there. That might be a tie. Oh, you like those? Oh, very nice.
Huckleberry.
Oh, look, big. That's good. Big buck.
During one of my movie reviews, I did I had a Curly Bill, the Curly Bill mug, and I said at the end of it, I said, well, as Curly Bill Brochus once said, well, bye. That's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's hard. It might be a tie.
And there's some good ones though, but like you said, you named a couple good ones there. Charlie Prince is a good. Charlie Prince is not as satisfying, but you're glad to see him finally get his ending. But definitely. I love the Snowpiercer guy getting killed. And Johnny Ringo's a good one too. Yeah, so there's a couple really good ones, and there's some are really satisfying, some aren't really satisfying. But for the most part, every one of the Black Order's deaths was very, very satisfying. Now wait a minute. Okay, the big guy gets launched into the shield, gets chopped to pieces. Proxima Midnight gets tossed into that big spinny thing, gets exploded. Maw gets sucked out into space. Great death sequence.
Yeah,
that's my favorite of the deaths, right there.
Yeah.
Now, but how does Corvus Glaive, the one that they stab, and then he ends up fighting, Vision at the end? How does he get his demise? Oh, it's is it Captain America?
Is it Thor?
No, I'm sorry. No, it's Vision. Of course, they're such good screenwriters, man. Who stabs him at the end in the back? Vision.
Vision does, yeah.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Because Captain America almost gets taken down for a second there. Like another great story. So Captain America beats him, and then when he has another chance, the other guy gets Captain America.
Yes.
And who comes at the end? The guy who is getting his ass handed to him the entire movie.
Like they're not just tossing out these scripts in a couple days.
Nope. Like
a lot of movies.
Nope.
Like they've said over and over again, they write the screenplay, and they do a couple rewrites, and they all come in and they go through it scene by scene by scene. Right. And then they go back through it and they pick a character and they take that character through the whole screenplay. Make sure that's then they go back.
Yep.
And they pick somebody else and they go through the whole screenplay.
Right.
Like they got a system, man.
You know what? That's one of the techniques I was taught in one of those screenwriting courses I was taking online. Was every time you go through a rewrite, is you do it on dialogue, then you do it on exposition, then you do it on character, and then every character you do a rewrite with that character in mind throughout, and just pay attention to the character's dialogue, the character's actions, and then don't touch anything else other than his stuff.
Yes, exactly.
And that's a good and especially when you have like four guys working with each other. My God, I would love to be able to fly on the wall when they're talking about these stories.
Yeah, like how many ideas they didn't use.
Exactly.
And those guys have come out, the writers come out and they're like, and it doesn't sound like hype. They said, like they love the reception of Infinity War, but they're kind of like, good grief, if you think this is good, wait till you see the next one's like, real, because they built up to that movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're like, well, they're not shocked people like it, but they're kind of like, good grief, you think this one's a good movie. The next one's bad.
Just wait, yeah. And what I'm most interested in is how this all ends, because they said, Kevin Feige said there's going to be two very different sides of Marvel after Avengers 4. That which happens before Avengers 4 and that which happens after. Yeah. And so it's going to be... Yeah. I love the fact that it was so crazy, and I'm hoping, and I'm going to give them every bit of ounce of respect, or not respect, what am I trying to say there? Benefit of the doubt that they're not going to he's not going to just re-snap his fingers and have everyone alive again, right? These deaths have to have consequences.
No, there's going to be some real heavy sacrifices going on. Like it feels like it's going to come down to like, you can bring some back, but not all. So you got to make some choices here.
Yeah, and I think that's probably going to be the case.
And I think that's where Tony Stark sacrifices himself to bring back Spider-Man.
I think it's in between Captain and because now we have the original Avengers again, and I think it's going to be Captain and Tony are going to bite it at the end. So Bob brought up an interesting thing. I don't know a lot about the comics. Bob said there's a particular storyline in the Avengers. I forget what it's called. Infinity Gauntlet something, Avengers something, whatever, where they go back and get the very best of every character. They get the best representation of that character is who's in this movie. So they go back and get Captain America from his early days with his old outfit from the first Avengers. Pure Captain before he was tainted by the ruse of Hydra, right? Before he was tainted with that information.
Oh, that's why there's a set photo of him in that old costume.
Yes.
Oh, all right.
That's what Bob is mentioning because he saw the pictures and he said that's what I'm thinking, that they're going to do this particular storyline, which I forget what it's called, but it's about getting all of the best, like going through the timelines and picking that best person and bringing them to fight the battle. You know what I mean?
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So who knows? We'll see, man. Like I said, I'm going to give them every benefit of the doubt that they're going to kill it, and I can't wait.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And everything I thought about it was wrong. I had a lot of predictions, and essentially the only thing that happened was that people died, and I was really happy.
The only thing I got right was how it opened.
Yeah, you were absolutely right on. You were completely 100% on the money with that. How, except for the Hulk aspect, which you could never know, but you opened it up exactly how you thought it was going. When I was watching, I'm like, wow, Craig nailed this one. And I didn't want to say that to you because I kept that off the topic because I wanted to make sure you saw that with your own eyes before I mentioned that it was the same exact story that you mentioned.
When I started watching it, I was like, oh crap, everyone's already dead.
Yeah.
This is the opening. Oh no.
I know, right?
Yes.
Oh, powerful. Quick question before we start to wrap up here. What's the midpoint of Avengers Infinity War?
Wow. Oh, I had it the other day. I did. I forgot it. At first, I thought it was when they decided to go to Titan.
Okay.
But somebody makes a choice in that movie.
Well, lots of choices. Tony Stark makes the choice to go take the fight to him. Thor makes the choice to go get the hammer.
When does Thor decide to go get the hammer? At what point in the movie does he give that emotional talk with Rocket?
That might be right around the middle. So I watched it both in the movie theater, so I never looked at my phone.
I think, but I want to say, I started to rethink it. I was like, I think it's something that Thanos does.
Okay.
But I haven't been able to, because I'm watching shitty copies. I don't know if I'm watching the whole movie. It's tough for me to say.
I see what you're saying. So you might be disconnected somehow, or different scenes in order or something like that. But I think that might be okay. So it could be the part where Thor or Thanos takes Gamora. It's not when he sacrifices her.
Yeah. Well, no, he sacrifices her towards the end. That's like in the last 20 minutes, right?
So I'm sorry. What were you just saying?
He sacrifices her like in the last 30 minutes.
Sure.
But he takes her before that, though.
That might be it. Getting his hands on her. It could be Thor getting to the factory where they're going to make the hammer, or to talk with Rocket maybe. No, that has to happen early. It's such a well-paced movie. I have no idea where the middle of the story is.
Well, it's odd because typically their midpoints are pretty spot on.
Right.
So it's there.
It's there, exactly. And then once we identify it, we're going to be like, oh, of course.
Yeah, it's totally obvious.
And I'm sure it's right there in the middle of the story. Like, you look at the time frame, an hour and 20 minutes in, it'll be right there.
It's probably right there, yeah.
Exactly. Well, very cool, man.
All right, cool, man. So, Henchmen.
I got to get on my Sunday here. Great talking to you like usual.
As always, Jason Catron, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And I hope everyone enjoyed this topic of great henchmen's, goon squad, henchman 101, whatever we're going to call it. But hope you enjoyed this talk about the value of a henchman.
Yes, and if you never noticed their value before, hopefully it's now more apparent. And go back and watch those movies.
That's right. That's what we're hoping for, right? And don't forget to subscribe and like and follow the J. Craig. And we're glad you're here, but keep on listening.
And we'll keep on talking.
All right, buddy. We'll see you next time.
Take it easy. Have fun.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, bye.